Hello and welcome to NFL TV. It's Division 1 Grand Final week. Thank you for joining us on the weekend gone by. Lowell Plenty becoming a triple premiership team, capped off a fantastic season to be Division 2 premiers in the under-19s reserves and the seniors. Hasn't been done, I think, since Layla way back in 2001, and Liam, a great way for the club to cap off what's been a truly remarkable season.
Yeah, they were fantastic across all levels. We saw most of the games. Didn't actually catch any in the 19th, saw all the reserves, and then obviously the seniors as well, and they were fantastic, and they've been the best side all year, so fantastic work to Lowell Plenty, and hopefully they do alright next year in Division 1.
Well, of course, we called the main game, and it was a game where Lowell Plenty went in as a favourite, but a lot of people gave Epping a real chance. In the previous two meetings before the sides, between the two sides, we had a 15-point win to Lower and a 25-point win in the second semi-final. In a game where Epping was right in the game until probably about 5 minutes to go in the game, when Lowell Plenty only 2 points up with 10 minutes to play, kicked 4 of the last 5, and I think a lot of people felt they gave Epping belief, but on the big stage, Lowell Plenty just proving that they were the best side all year. Kicked 7 goals in the first quarter to set up the win. It was a 5-goal lead at quarter time, but with such a strong breeze, you really felt that Epping could come back in the second quarter, but Lowell's defence in that second term really held up, and for mine, that was the quarter that won the game. They went into half-time with a 6-goal lead, kept Epping scoreless in the second term with what was probably a 4 or 5-goal win. And for mine, that was a quarter that really set up the premiership win.
Yeah, it was amazing that if you would have said before that game with how Epping just having a kick and walking around the ground beforehand, it was a really strong win. And if you would have said then that Epping wouldn't score a goal all game with the wind at their back, they'd only get their goals against it, we would have had a few quizzical looks, I think. But the fact they weren't able to really take advantage of that, well, obviously Lowell Plenty did straight out of the blocks, getting those first 7 goals, getting the 7 goals in the first quarter, and then they just were good enough in defence and able to lock up Epping and just cruise home from there.
Darcy Barton is still a 19-year-old kid, but what he has done this year just continues to amaze everyone. And he had such a great home and away season, and we felt perhaps he'd get a bit of extra attention in the final series. We saw it way back in round 6. The one game that Layla lost, that Lowell lost to Layla. It was the Layla players trying to get stuck into him, getting off his game, and I felt that a lot of, I guess, other clubs in finals would try and do that, but in the second semi-final, it was fantastic against Epping. Kicked, I think, 3 goals for the day, but kicked them all at crucial times. And on the weekend, named best on ground in a premiership win. Went forward in the first and third quarters when Lower kicked with the wind. When they were against it, he went deep into defence and was just unstoppable. Marked everything and just read the ball so well. If he couldn't mark it, he'd make sure he get a spoil in it. It was a deserving winner of the best on ground medal. But what a remarkable season he's had. Kicked more than 75 goals for the season, and you think that kid is destined for bigger and better things.
Yeah, he had a fantastic year. Gee, on Saturday, I think he actually got something to over about 13, 14 marks in the end. We were working in track, but obviously forgotten them since the weekend. But he was just fantastic. He was reading in the ball in flight. There were so many times, especially in that second quarter, when Epping were really trying to push to get back into it. He was just cutting off any sort of forward attack they had, and he's played all over the ground. We sort of only known he was a forward this year, but he's shown that he can do it all over the ground.
And for Lowell Plenty, it bodes well the fact that they've won premierships in all 3 divisions. They've got a lot of depth there, and going up now to Division 1, they're probably one side that I think can really match it with the best. They probably won't be up in the top 4 by any stretch of the imagination. It's going to be hard work to, first off, just get a team balanced, retain the players that they're going to need to for Division 1, and probably recruit a few others. But at the moment, they're looking very well balanced, and the side that can have an immediate impact. And perhaps, who knows, even sneak into a finals in the first year in competition Division 1. It's going to be tough, but they're probably, when you look at it, more advanced than any of those other Division 2 sides, and a real chance for them to have a good impression in their first year in the top flight.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how they go recruiting-wise. I think we all feel they'll probably lose Barton to bigger and better things, which is unfortunate for the club, but great for Darcy Barton as you move on. But gee, you think they are a pretty big club, and obviously with such great success this year across all divisions, they'll be able to bring some kids up from the 19s that'll get stronger again when they go another year and that sort of thing. And they'll also be able to recruit some names, you think, as well. They are a big club, so it'll be interesting to see how they go on that front. But gee, you sort of think with the improvement of some other clubs already in Division 1, those lower sides like the McLeods and Whittleseas and that sort of thing, it might be a struggle for them to get, and no disrespect to Lowell Plenty, but there's going to be 10 very good sides in Division 1 next year.
Well, it is. It's shaping as just a remarkable year next year. We've got 5 sides who make the finals this year who consider themselves a chance, or a genuine chance, of making it again next year. We've got Northcote Park who finished 6th and was inside the top 5 all year. They'll back themselves to bounce back. McLeod's coming, Whittlesea will come again. They've obviously haven't recruited too much in the 2011 year and still had a pretty decent season in their first season. up in Division 1, and they'll think that they can recruit a few big names next year and move further up the ladder, and Lower Plenty's going to come in and hope to have an immediate impact. Altham's another one which showed in patches how good they can be this year, so I reckon next year you're going to have 10 teams fighting for, it's just going to be a dogfight really, and I think the side that comes last is going to be pretty unlucky, because it could be a year where you win 4 or 5 games and finish last on the ladder. But Lower Plenty definitely for mine. It's an exciting time for them to come up. I think if anything, you look at the side that they had this year and compare it with the Whittlesea side of last year, and if anything, you probably think that Lower Plenty was a better side by maybe 1 or 2 goals. So if anything, they can use Whittlesea as, I guess, an example of what they can do in that first year. And of course, the Eagles didn't take the competition by storm by any stretch of the imagination, but they were very impressive. And with such a young list, you can only imagine that next year they'll be bigger and better as well. And I can't wait for that to start. But before it all does, before next year starts, we've got one more game going for the season. It is the biggest day on the NFL calendar. It's Division 1 Grand Final Day down at Preston City Oval this Saturday. Of course, it all kicks off at 9:15 in the morning when Greensborough takes on Bundoora in the under-19s. At 11:45 we have the reserves. It's Bundoora against Montmorency, and then in the main game, Bundoora up against Heidelberg. The Bulls, well, they'll be trying to do what Lower Plenty did on the weekend and walk away with 3 grand final victories and 3 premiership flags. It's going to be a bit tougher. I think, first of all, I think the opposition is going to be a higher class of opposition, but also given the fact that Lower Plenty did top the ladder in all those 3 competitions, whereas Bundoora is going to be an underdog in both the 19s and the reserves. But in the main game, and the one we'll focus on, is probably the game that we're really after. It's the new powerhouse, or the emerging powerhouse in Bundoora. I think if they can win this flag, it might just, I guess that mental release might see them win a couple more in years to come, up against the old stages in Heidelberg, a side which has been a remarkable year. At probably by about round 5, I think, or round 7 in fact, many people were almost written them off. They were 7th on the ladder, and no one really could predict what was to come. But such a proud club. They've proven the outsiders wrong, and probably a few internal doubts as well. It's been a fantastic comeback in this season, and even just their win on the weekend as well. I think many people felt that after they were smashed by Bundoora in the second week of the finals, that they'd find it really tough against a West Preston side in such good form. They were using the wide expanses of Preston City Oval to great effect, and with Rocker up forward and Morrison and Presty down back, you just had such a balanced side. Heidelberg doing as they so often do, just stepping up in September and for mine, playing one of the better finals games they've played in recent times.
Yeah, they were amazingly good in that third quarter. They pretty much killed the game in about 15 minutes or so. Obviously, I think it got back to about 8 points about the 10-11 minute mark of the third quarter. Been around that mark all day. Then Heidelberg just kicked, I think it was about 4 in a row before the end of that third quarter. West Preston tried as they could to try to get back into that last quarter from coming down from about 40 points, I think they were at one stage. They got it down to 3 goals at one point, but then obviously Heidelberg got another one, and that was all over from there. So just a fantastic really quarter of footy that turned the game for them. And we spoke about him a lot, but Houlihan getting those big 2 goals in the fourth quarter when it did look like that West Preston might actually push for them and might have some chance of running over top of them. He really just stood up and was fantastic. We haven't seen him at all this year. He hasn't played much this year, but he was showing why he has such big raps on him around the league.
I think the other one who I guess we have to make mention of was Jake Williams in the middle of the ground, and never have we seen, I think this year, a more dominant performance from any player, let alone from the middle of the ground. The centre clearances was where the game was won and lost, and Heidelberg just completely dominated that stat, continually won the ball from the ruck contest, got it into their forwards quickly, and it stepped to win from there. Every time West Preston, even in the first and second quarters when the game was right in the balance, West Preston would get a goal, but Heidelberg would always win that centre clearance, get it forward, and give themselves the best chance of scoring that next goal very quickly. But Jake Williams, a magnificent game, had it countless times, kicked 2 goals in the last quarter. I had a very quick chat to Blair Harvey as well on the phone the other day, and he just said straight after the win, arguably one of the best finals performances he's ever seen, and coming from a guy who's a 4-time premiership captain, 5-time premiership player, you couldn't ask for higher praise. Williams is magnificent, but also both Nolans were great. Dale Nolan came in under an injury cloud, went forward and still kicked 4 goals. Matt Walter came in, this ruck, did a good job, and of course Blair Harvey, as he always does, just kept racking up disposals at will.
Yeah, and I think when you said those clearances that they dominated, which Harvey would have had at least 10 or so of those during the game as well, but they just didn't let West Preston get on any run because of that. We saw, especially against Greensborough the week before, that when West Preston got a bit of a run on, they were able to kick goals in spurts because they just couldn't get the ball out of the middle, and then obviously they couldn't get that momentum built, and Heidelberg, just all credit to them, shut them down in that department. Finn was fantastic again, who he has been all year, so that's no real surprise to us. But I think we're all pretty surprised with the form of Walter, and it was good to see they brought in, almost a lesser name in the club that we haven't seen too much of during the year, and he was able to really stand up in a big game. So it should be a great grand final this week.
I think we said last week in the show as well that they were sure to pull a surprise, and I think it was him. He came in, Peter Spence came in, and they had a few late inclusions there, and they all did the job to great effect. Brenton Hopp came in as well, so they all did well, and I guess in the end were pivotal in winning the game. But Heidelberg still are going to have to step up another year this weekend. They were smashed by Bandura by 73 points the last time the sides met, and a lot's going to have to change for Heidelberg to get back into the game. I guess their superior record over Bandura in grand final, I think it's 4 premiership wins in the past 7 years in fact, and this will be the 5th time they'll meet in a grand final in 8 years. So 4 out of 7 ain't too bad at all against Bandura. The loss of last year will hurt them, but for Bandura, if they can get over that, I guess, mental burden of having lost so many grand finals to Heidelberg, and if they can get off to a good start, they're going to be very hard to beat. They'll be bolstered by the return of Ben Shelton, who just fit in straight down back again. Unfortunately, they lose Brent Marshall, who broke his collarbone in the second semi-final, but for Bandura, the upside is there's still plenty there. Matty Hyde's going to play. He was out in the first quarter in the second semi-final in a game where they won by 73 points, but with 2 men on the bench after about halfway through the second term. So a lot of upside for Bandura, and I really reckon this is their time to finally break it. What's now a 15-year premiership drought and win their first premiership cup since 1996.
Yeah, it seems like if it was going to be any year, it's going to be for Bandura. They've obviously got, as we said, 3 sides in all 3 grand finals on the weekend. They've been the best side all year in Division 1. Obviously, they were challenged a little bit, but I think over the course, everyone would agree they were the top side. So you'd think that if it was going to happen, as we said, it is going to be this year for them. They've got some great forwards. Obviously, we speak about Cloak and Moorcroft a lot. Then you throw in Harrison, who's been a prolific goal scorer in his history as well. Their midfield's fantastic, and they've got a great defence as well, especially when Shelton comes back in, just to really sort of shore up that back half of the ground. So they'd go in deserved favourite to this one, but they won't have an easy task against Heidelberg.
I think the 2 key men for mine in this game is first off Matty Dennis. He's been fantastic all season long. He's gone forward, kicked 20 goals for the season, and it's a fair effort considering he plays the majority of his time in the midfield, but he's tall, he can help as a backup ruckman, he's a pinch hitting forward and has the endurance to run all day. He's the hardest man imaginable to man up on, and he was just about best on the ground the last time the sides went 2 weeks ago, and he's, for mine, I can't really see enough for Heidelberg who can actually go with him, or has the aerobic capacity to go with him, but then can also go with him up in the air. And I guess the other one for Heidelberg for mine, who's the real game breaker, is Mark Favren up forward. He's done it so often in big games. He's been best on ground in grand finals before. We saw him against Greensboro kick 6 on the weekend. He was lively again. And Michael Mitchell's going to be the one who goes to him. But Favren's great grand final hit or record is, I guess, one of the key features of this game. He did miss last year's grand final as well when they went down. He broke his leg against West Preston in the second semi-finals. He's raring to go on the big stage again, and for mine, they're the 2 game breakers in this weekend's game.
Yeah, we're interested to see how Matty Dennis goes after he has had such a great year, almost flying under the radar a little bit during the year, but I think Heidelberg will put a lot of work into it and think maybe, with Walter doing so well on the ruck last week, they could maybe try to have Finn run around the ground with him, but obviously if they do that, it takes a massive part out of Heidelberg's game, and then Favren, we love watching Favren playing the commentary. It's just exciting player to watch. Whenever he gets near it, you sort of have a feeling he's going to be able to do something. We saw a few times on the weekend when I think it was in the third, took his running away from goal and sort of ducked and weaved and got back around onto his boot and then picked out a pass for his teammates. So he just has that sort of X factor when he does get a hold of the ball. But he's probably just the size might really hurt him, because that Bandura back 6 is a pretty big and physical unit. So could maybe throw him off the game a little bit. But Favren's an experienced customer. I'm sure he'll still pop up and kick his 2 or 3, I think, on the weekend.
Well, he was very quiet in the first time the sides met way back in round 3. He didn't have his greatest game that day, and it's for mine. He's got that X factor about him, doesn't he? And he's almost a cult hero around the club, and someone I'm sure Bandura doesn't need to hear his name twice. They'll put plenty of work into him in the lead up to the game. It's going to be a cracking affair. You look at the 2 midfields as well. You got the 2. For mine, 2 of the best midfields in the comp. Heidelberg, it's an ageing midfield, but they don't show any signs of slowing down. You throw in Williams, Harvey, Nolan. It's a great midfield. Then you add the likes of half-back and up half forward as well, of Sinclair. Naboot is an underrated player. Justin Murphy down back, very solid. They've got these smaller players who are unrivaled by any other club. And then you look at Bandura's midfield, you've got Farrelly in there, David Mitchell, Braden Shaw, Kamushiana, who was best of field the last time the sides played, and makes that ruck battle just so important. And it'll be Cruiser going up against Finn, 2 very informed ruckmen, and almost whoever wins that ruck contest gives their side such a great advantage, and it could almost swing the balance either way. I don't think it's going to be as definitely won't be as one-sided as what we saw 2 weeks ago. And you just think that whoever can win the ball from the middle of the ground, as we saw in the preliminary final, will go a long way to win the game. For mine, I still just think that Bandura's extremely potent forward line probably offers a lot more than Heidelberg's now. It's an ageing list. Nolan will have to have a blinder up forward, and Caddy's going to really find some form. He's been pretty quiet in all 3 finals so far, and he's going to have to kick at least 3 or 4 goals for Heidelberg to win the game. You can never write them off, because as we've seen from last week and also in the first week of the finals, when you write off Heidelberg, you do so at your own peril. But given what Bandura did 2 weeks ago, it is very hard to not tip them this weekend.
Yeah, obviously, as you said, you don't want to discount Heidelberg. They've been fantastic for so long, experienced players, and they know how to win grand finals. But you have to go. I think Bandura by about 2 or 3 goals should be a little bit too good.
Well, I've tipped Bandura by 24 points, but as I said, you do write Heidelberg off at your own peril on the weekend. I think I tipped West Preston by the same margin as well, and we'll look what's happened there. It was all over by 3/4 time, but it is just shaping up as an absolute cracker. And as we said, it's the potential new powerhouse coming against the older weary legs of Heidelberg. But as we said with Heidelberg, they're going for their 20th premiership, and they don't need any, I guess, motivating factor. They know what it's all about. They love proving everyone wrong, and the fact that they lost last year's one in the grand final, which they went in as a huge favourite, and the fact that that one slipped, they'll be looking to get that one back this year when they go in with the underdog tag, and they haven't done so for so long. They've been in 8 grand finals in a row, and you'd almost argue that they were favoured in every single one of those, except for this one here. So it's going to be a cracker. Make sure you're down at Preston City Oval. Get there all day, but if you can make it just for the main game, it does start at 2:30. As you said, Preston City Oval. If you can't make it, listen to the call on 88.6 Plenty Valley FM. Myself, Liam and John Seaton will be at the call of the game. As we said, from 2:30 the main game starts, so make sure you do tune in there. Thank you for your time, and we'll be back again next week for our final edition of NFL TV. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again then.